Okay, guys, as we continue our series here on handicapping tips when it comes to sports, we are glad to have Rick joining us from Rick J's handicappingpicks.com. And Rick, thanks for taking a few minutes out, my friend. And we're excited here because anybody that has ever been a sports fan or anybody that has maybe dabbled a little bit in betting on sports, well, we've all got some good news. Sports betting is becoming legalized in many states throughout, not just Las Vegas where you are. Many states have now incorporated sports betting as a possibility, and we've been getting an awful lot of people asking questions on like where to go, how to go, all of that good stuff there. So we're hoping you can actually point people in the right direction and give them some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to beginning out and betting on sports. So I'll start, Rick, first and foremost. Tell us a little bit about you and your background, and how did you get into handicapping sports?
Well, I've always been interested in it. I have a diverse background. I was an CPA attorney, and then got into business. And during that time, I was always dabbling in sports handicapping. And then when I sold my business, I went into full-time poker playing here in Las Vegas and stepped up my handicapping quite a bit. And now I'm a full-time handicapper and stock trader.
Oh, okay.
So I do it all.
Okay, so you're across the board there. Rick J's handicappingpicks.com is his website. You can absolutely check it out. Talk to me a little bit, Rick, about some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to getting involved in sports betting, people just starting out. What would you say the number one thing people should be aware of or try to avoid when it comes to getting into sports betting?
Number one, and I've on my side, I've gone into detail about this, but it's money management. If you don't have a plan, your chances of success are almost zero. And I say this from experience. I can put out 60% winners, and if you don't have a systematic money management plan, you're not going to end up winning. It's as simple as that, and it's. You can almost take that as a given in sports betting. You know, so many sports bettors bet randomly that it makes no difference how successful their picks are. They're going to end up losing because what you have to do is minimize human nature. And if you can't do that, you can't win. Human nature is going to sabotage at every step of the way. So that's probably the most important thing you have to realize as a sports bettor. And the pros all know it, and they know it well. The amateurs, many don't even have a clue what motivates them or why they bet the way they do. And they don't last long. So that's number one. Number two, to be successful, you have to be a contrarian. You can't be a public bettor. Now, certainly the public wins occasionally, but more often than not, the public side's the wrong side. And you have to remember, you're looking for value. You're not looking for sure bets. There are no sure bets in handicapping. So you're looking for that, 2, 3, 5% edge, and that's what you're dealing with.
So what you're
not dealing with anything.
What'll happen is Joes will bet teams and pros will bet games. And sometimes, the Joes, the average guy or the casual bettor will bet on his team because he loves his team. But pros, they're looking for numbers. They're looking for value. They're looking for, if everybody's going left, chances are I'm going to go right.
Yeah, you either better be off the game or going right. Exactly. A good example of that was the pro game last night, Baltimore at Cincinnati. Almost 70% of the bettors were on Baltimore last night. And, I made the comment. I didn't bet the game, but I made the comment. You have to stay away from the game or bet Cincinnati. You can't bet Baltimore.
Right.
You just can't bet them because it's over the long run. you're going to get buried betting in that situation. And these come up all the time, especially in the NFL. There's no better way to be a contrarian than in the NFL. It used to be a lot better about 7 or 8 years ago, but it's still pretty strong. But for a beginner, if you combine money management, good betting technique with a good contrarian approach, you'll stay out of trouble. And you'll probably end up making money.
And what happens is, being a contrarian goes against human nature, like you had mentioned earlier. Rick is joining us from Rick J's Handicapping Picks. People aren't used to being contrarians. People like going, like I said, everyone's going left. All right, I'll go left. It's very hard to force yourself to be able to go, well, if everyone's going that way, I'm going this way. It's not in the human nature. And another thing that's very hard for Joes to understand and grasp, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is how variance comes in. Where, for instance, last week you had mentioned we watched Baltimore manhandle the Buffalo Bills. So everyone's going, well, the Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl. They don't understand or can't grasp the variance, especially in the NFL from week to week, that the recency bias, it drives people to make bets they probably shouldn't make.
Yeah, what's interesting is in the NFL, the better a team does, typically, not all the time, but typically the worse they are as a bet the next week. And the worse they play, the better they are as a bet the next week. Now, that's a general proposition. There's many other considerations, but that is, that's pretty good rule of thumb. But there's a lot of things like that just little things that the pros, they know. I mean, I promise you there wasn't one pro on Baltimore last night. Not one.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was all public betting on Baltimore.
Yes.
I'm surprised the line moved more than what it did, but the bookmakers are on to this, and they're not adjusting the lines like they used to be.
Because they realize that the pros are waiting for that, and they're waiting to pounce once they get the number to where they want to be. There's
more and more pros around now with more and more money. So whereas let's say 6 years ago you might have been seeing Baltimore at 3.5, now the line barely moved, and you're seeing that, and you have to be aware of that.
Right. Yeah, you absolutely do. Rick J's handicappingpicks.com. That's Rick JS handicappingpicks.com. Rick is joining us here, and talking about the idea of pros staying away from certain public favorites. I don't think there's any bigger public favorite than Kansas City, who opened up at +4, and I believe over 80% of the bets are coming in on Kansas City against Pittsburgh this week. Again, recency bias, and that's another one of those situations where a Joe would look at that and go, "Oh, I'm absolutely taking Kansas City," but there's pros that are going, there's nothing contrarian about that pick.
In that game, you have to lay the point. You cannot take Kansas City. And I may even be betting that game. It's a little early. I don't make my decisions until game time, but I can tell you right now, if you're betting the game, you have to stay away from Kansas City. And they look good. I mean, if you look at it just from a gut, public instinct, man, load up the truck on Kansas City. Honest to God, I mean, almost it looks too good to be true. Getting four on Kansas City. I mean, it looks, it just looks like a sure thing.
Yeah.
And, which goes to another rule. The better the game looks, the more you should be on the other side.
I love it.
From a public thinking standpoint.
And I had you had mentioned something earlier, Rick, about how you wait until last minute, and I think that's another important factor for the Joes to understand, is that there's no one hard, fast way to do this and to handicap. I know guys, like I'm sure you know guys, that their bets are in by Monday or Tuesday once the lines come out, and then there are guys that go, you know what, I want as much information as I possibly can before I make my pick, and those picks aren't going into you're not playing those games until right up before kickoff. So I think it's important for Joes to understand that there is no right way, so to speak. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that. It used to be if you were a contrarian, you could wait 10 minutes before game time and you'd always get a better line than what you get before. Now it's changed a little. You have to time it a little. So sometimes it's right to get in the evening before the game, sometimes early morning, but it's almost never right to wait before 10, 15 minutes before game time, because by then the pros are down in the game. So you have to try and figure out, where the pro is going to get in, and if you just watch the lines, you'll see that, it's really remarkable how it plays out a pattern time after time.
Yep, and there is a lot of consistency when it comes to that. There are definitely some trends that people need to understand before they dive into this. Rick J's handicappingpicks.com is joining us. Make sure you check it out. One of the other questions we get a lot, Rick, is that there are a million guys on Twitter and social media. Everyone has these guaranteed locks, and they're winning 80% of their games, and these numbers are just astronomical. Talk, if you could, real quick about how does somebody who's a novice or just starting out, how do they decipher who is completely full of shit, for lack of a better term, and who is the real deal? Who are the people that they should be concentrating on as a professional and looking for advice from?
Well, that's pretty simple. Anybody that has guaranteed games or promises over 60% winners, just cross them off. I mean, there's nobody, anybody can promise that. It just can't be done. I've been doing this a long time. And if you can do 55%, you're doing very, very good. But nobody can guarantee nothing. I mean, but that there's just trigger words that, if you're got any common sense at all, you wouldn't fall for anything like that.
Yeah. Well,
now, who to follow? It's like finding a good attorney. And I was an attorney for 30 years. It's almost impossible to find a good attorney. And the same way with sports bettors. It's the same way with sports bettors. It's almost impossible to find somebody that really knows what they're doing. And one of the reasons is many of the pros don't want to share what they know. So you're not gonna find somebody giving out essentially what they've learned all these years. They essentially sit back, they do their thing, and they don't broadcast anything.
Tell me exactly how it works with Rick J's handicappingpicks.com, because some of the other things that we have heard is some of these systems and some of these guys, they want you to lock yourself in for a X amount of times, and it's $200, $300, $500, $700 a month for all these picks. What advice would you have, or how does it work with Rick J's handicapping picks if somebody was a novice and wanted to look to somebody who knows, who does this for a living? How does it work with your program?
I make it very simple. $49 a month. That includes every sport I handicap. My plays are sent out via Twitter and email. And if you're a new subscriber, if before 14 days you don't like it, I'll give you all your money back.
Oh.
And that's it. You don't lock yourself in for anything.
Okay.
Just a monthly fee. And if you compare that with some of these other guys that charge, $1,500 for a season for one sport, it's, and I promise you, my results are in I'd say 95% of the cases better than anything you'll find with those services. And that's every game.
And that's everything. And I think it's also important that the novices and the Joes, they understand that the Joes always tend to bet all the primetime games. They tend to always dive feet first in the Monday nights, the Thursday night. You know, they want all the primetime games. But, you know, there's a lot of value sometimes in the games that are a little bit off the map, and they may not be on TV. So maybe the Joes, some advice for them would be to don't always concentrate on the game of the week. There are some better value plays usually, especially on the weekend in college and the NFL, where, you know, maybe you look at the MAC or you look at some of these games that you go, wow, it's not on TV, but you know what? There's more value in this game than, you know, the Ohio State game that's going to be on at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, that's true. And also the public or Joes have a strong bias to bet favorites, and they have a strong bias to bet the overs. And it's been like that forever, and it hasn't changed. Rarely do you see a game where the public's all over the dog. Now, you see that in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And typically when that happens, you know, it's a red flag for me. Whenever the public's strong on a dog, you better be on the favorite. I mean, it's as simple as, no matter how bad it looks, no matter, I mean, even if you have to force yourself, you can't bet the dog.
You can't bet the dog.
And of course,
Rick from Rick J's Handicapping Picks. Make sure you swing by that website. Follow him on Twitter, Rick J Sports Plays, Rick J Swings. Can't miss him. Make sure you subscribe to him. And Rick, I can't thank you enough for taking a couple of minutes out of your day and helping our viewers, helping our listeners here get a better understanding. If they're thinking about going into sports betting, if it's something that people want to get serious about, then certainly drop by Rick J's handicappingpicks.com. It's a hell of a place to start. Get some information, and you don't have to go into debt immediately to be able to participate. So, Rick, thanks again, my friend. I appreciate it. Best of luck to you. I look forward to doing this again.
Sure. I enjoyed talking to you. Have a good day.
Thanks very much. All right, that is rickjspicks.com, Vegas Insider. Some great information there. Certainly, if you are new to the sports betting game, if you are thinking about getting involved and maybe taking it from being the casual bettor, the guy that bets here and there, to maybe something a little bit more full-time, as they say, then certainly some great information with Rick J's handicappingpicks.com. We've talked to our friend, the kid, man, the Jersey kid. We've talked to him, and we'll keep doing that here on the show throughout. My whole idea is to bring you as many of these Vegas insiders, these guys that do this for a living, bring their knowledge to you so you can avoid some of the pitfalls and some of the things that the novices, the Joes, so to speak, they make, the traps that they fall in, the mistakes that they make. We want to help you try to avoid that because, like it or not, gambling, sports betting, it's coming. It's coming here to Florida, whether they want to believe it or they don't want to believe it, or though I think Disney might have something to say about that. But sports betting is already, you don't have to be in Las Vegas anymore. You don't have to put your money offshore anymore. FanDuel, DraftKings, it looks like they're going to start accepting bets, and I do believe that FanDuel at this point has opened up its own book on a beta program, and I know some guys that have actually been invited to that, so it's coming. And it's, listen, if me, instead of wasting $20 in scratch-offs and lottery tickets, I'd rather make a more educated decision and a better chance of winning some money by betting on a sports game and betting on one team or the other. And it's becoming more and more mainstream. So what I want to try to do is bring guys like Rick on and Jersey Kid Picks, these guys that do this for a living, that have a huge following, that have loyal customer bases where they must be doing something right for people to continue to follow them and support them. It's not because they don't know what they're talking about. So we want to bring that to you. Also, want to welcome you guys in. If you're just joining us, welcome in. My name is Joe Raineri. It is the WTF Sports TV network, the family, and we want to thank them very much for making us a part of the group. And, of course, we want you to, right there below, you'll see Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure that you like the pages, if you will, there. Tell your friends. Pass it around. Spread the wealth. We truly do appreciate it. We'll talk sports here. We'll talk life and guy things and girl things and all sorts of fun things. We'll do that throughout here. Coming up a little bit later tonight, as a matter of fact, right around 6:15, we're going to bring you the live broadcast of the backstretch. If it's horse racing or greyhound racing that tickles your taint a little bit, then great. We've got that for you. We're going to bring the boys directly live from the Palm Beach Kennel Club to you right around 6:15 tonight here on WTF Sports TV. So make sure you subscribe. Hit that damn bell in the upper left-hand corner there, or right-hand corner. I never really did learn my right from my left. Go ahead, hit that bell, subscribe to it. It'll notify you every time that we go live here with one of these crazy-ass shows. So it's good all around, and we appreciate the support. Also, up top, you've got it. Miami Acura Hotline, 855-WTF-2255. Look at us. We're getting all fancy and shit here. Look at it. We got 800 numbers. We've got vanity numbers. We got all sorts of stuff happening here at WTF Sports TV. So jot that number down, 855-WTF 2255. That'll bring you right into the phone system here, right into the studio line. You'll be able to reach us, talk to us, all sorts of good things. It is Friday, and that means we have some picks to give you. We got some games to go over, and we're going to break those games down. Also, want to say hello to the guys that are joining us via social media, whether it be at Joe Raineri Show or at WTF Sports TV. Want to say hello to Frank and Stymie, you guys, Red Avery, you guys that are hanging out here. We appreciate you. We appreciate the support. So bring it here, guys. I want to know what you think. I want to know what your locks of the weekend are. What games are you guys looking at? And where do you see some of the value in this weekend's action? Tomorrow, college football, a lot of games affected, of course, by Hurricane Florence. And I did want to mention to the folks, and again, our thoughts and our prayers. We are with you, certainly from here in South Florida. We know what it's like to be trapped in that situation there, where you've got rain, wind, hurricane. It's a mess, unfortunately, in the Carolinas, and it's moving up the coast. So our thoughts and prayers are with those who are being affected by Hurricane Florence right now. Hang in there. Help is on the way. I can assure you, as bad as it may seem right now, or as bad as it's going to be over the next week or so, it will get better. And we know that here in South Florida all too well. So just wanted to say that. Also, games this weekend. Whole bunch of college games have been affected. The weather is going to be an issue in some games that have remained on the schedule. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But why don't we start with last night? You had the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. And when we talk about value here on the show, and I think this is an important thing to point out, because you guys are going to hear a lot from people when it comes to betting on sports. You're going to hear that word used a lot, value. Like, there's no value in that. What are the value plays? And what we're talking about when we say value is that there is, for lack of a better term, there's actually money to be made. You are never, and Rick J's handicapping picks had just joined us here a little bit earlier, and Rick talked about that as well. You are never going to make any money doing this if you're going to bet favorites the entire time. Your ass will end up going broke before you are ever able to pocket any money by betting on favorites. And that is, so when we talk about value, we talk about the games and the situations which will allow you to be able to, pocket some money and get ahead in the long run. Another thing that he said that he talked about, I thought was very important, is that if you've got somebody telling you they're 65, 70%, 80% winners on their football picks, and they're full of shit. I don't know how else to put it politely, but they are completely full of shit because nobody is picking the best sports handicappers, okay, in the world, the greatest sports handicappers, the best minds. At best, they're hoping 52, 53, 54% over the long haul over the year. So if you've got somebody promising you 70% winners, they are so full of shit, it actually brings tears to my eyes. So keep that in mind, and keep in mind when we're talking about value, we're talking about being a contrarian. We're talking about, well, when everybody's going left, you're going to go right. And there are a few games on the schedule this weekend where it is so glaring that it really does. It just stands out, and one of those games is going to be Pittsburgh and Kansas City, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But here's another one of those situations last night where the value, so much money was coming in being played on the Baltimore Ravens that this game got all screwed up from a odds-making standpoint because so much of the public money was coming in on Baltimore. Everybody thought Baltimore, because of what they did to that high school team, the Buffalo Bills, was just going to run over the Cincinnati Bengals on the road. And so much public money came in to the Baltimore Ravens yesterday that the line went from getting a couple of points to all of a sudden it was a pick-up game or +1 for Cincinnati at kickoff. And Cincinnati was always going to be the better value play in that game because Cincinnati at home, Cincinnati was the play last night, but so many people went with Baltimore because they thought what they saw against Pittsburgh was just going to continue week after week after week, and that was not the case. And by the way, those of you who are playing against A.J. Green in fantasy football this week, I am so sorry. I apologize for your loss. My thoughts, my condolences to your fantasy football week. A.J. Green going out, scoring 3 touchdowns. What did he score? 21, almost 30 points by himself in that game alone last night. A.J. Green, and you can tell with Baltimore, by the way, that not having Jimmy Smith in that defense and in that lineup caused them a lot of problems. And I credit the Bengals for adjusting and moving Green around the formations and giving him an opportunity to get wide open because he was really, really wide open. Bill Lazor, and for those of you here in Miami, you know exactly who Bill Lazor is. They opened up the playbook, and all of a sudden, Andy Dalton is looking, Andy Dalton's looking like he can do some damage. And I like the Cincinnati Bengals because the Cincinnati Bengals are playing with a chip on their shoulder. The Cincinnati Bengals feel that they're not getting any respect. Andy Dalton has not gotten any respect over the years, and the team is, a lot of people didn't even pick them to finish in the top 3 in the AFC North. So Cincinnati is a different team with Joe Mixon in the backfield when he is healthy. Him and Giovanni Bernard are a great combination. Cincinnati, to me, offensively, is probably the league's most improved thus far through a couple of weeks. You can tell that this is not the same old with the Cincinnati Bengals. Don't forget, Cincinnati in this same game last year got their asses handed to them by Baltimore. But that's not the case anymore. This is a different Cincinnati Bengals team, and I was pretty impressed. Andy Dalton, can't say enough good things about him. Joe Flacco was under duress the whole night last night. Got sacked 4 times. He had 12 deflected passes. He was sacked, 4 tackles for a loss, 8 quarterback hits. The Cincinnati Bengals, without Vontaze Burfict, were all in his grill. They were all up in there, played hard. Pretty damn impressed with what we saw there. John Brown, I didn't even know John Brown was actually on. I still thought he was with Arizona. But John Brown is with the Baltimore Ravens, got wide open there. The Ravens kept fighting back. They were down 21-0 early, in the first half and managed to come back and make this a game. Going into halftime, they were still just 2 scores down, and they kept fighting. And John Brown was a big reason for that. Flacco has a deep weapon. Flacco's got some ways to stretch the field now. Crabtree, of course, and John Brown. That is pretty impressive. The Ravens also, as bad a loss as this was for them, and now they are in, they're in second place in the AFC North with the Bengals now being 2-0. But as bad a loss as this was for the Baltimore Ravens, there's still a lot to be happy about if you are a Ravens fan. And I still like what I'm seeing from Joe Flacco. I think the offensive line on the road, short week. And we all know Thursday night games that a lot of the value is always on the home team. Away teams, Thursday night football, short weeks, it usually doesn't fare very well for them. So as the Thursday night football games continue to move along, keep that in mind, all right? That's why Cincinnati was a better value play last night than the Baltimore Ravens. It didn't matter what Baltimore did a week ago against Buffalo. Road team, short week, and it ended up showing there. So, but I do like what the Ravens have done. They did lose, unfortunately, C.J. Mosley, their all-pro inside linebacker. That's going to be a rough loss. And not having, of course, Jimmy Smith. You saw what difference he makes, having that shutdown corner on the team. You saw what kind of difference it was. A.J. Green was going to be able to score at will last night, and he did. And not having that shutdown corner was pretty tough. Lamar Jackson did enter the game last night. He made an appearance for about a handful of plays. I'm still not sure that the Ravens and Harbaugh understand how they're going to use Lamar Jackson this year. It just doesn't feel as if they have really mapped it out. It seems like they're kind of flying with it and taking different situations in a game and going, you know what, the hell with it. Let's see what we can get. But, yeah, I just don't feel that there's a whole lot there with him as far as timing and effectiveness, and they haven't figured it out, but they will as the season goes on. I do think that Joe Flacco is going to be your quarterback for the whole year, and anybody that is hoping that Joe Flacco falls flat on his face, it is not going to happen. Lamar Jackson is definitely the future for the Ravens, but make no mistake about it, Joe Flacco is going to be your quarterback this year. Looks a million times better than he had all last year. Looks a million times better than he has in the years since he won the Super Bowl. Once he got paid, Joe Flacco became a different quarterback. You know, he won that Super Bowl, he got his money, and boy, oh boy, does he look like a completely different dude this year than he has over the last few years. One real cool thing also about last night, I don't know if you guys had a chance to see this, but my God, Steve Smith, who is part of the NFL crew, the NFL Network crew, man, he has not lost a step. And what I mean by that, and this is also Education 101, always turn off your phone in radio. Anytime you're trying to broadcast, make sure that the ringer is off so this doesn't happen and you sound like a total tool bag. So I'm going to take some of my advice right there. But Steve Smith did not and has not missed a beat. Last night they were talking about Joe Flacco as a quarterback and how Joe Flacco hasn't had a receiver since Antwan Bolden left the team after the Super Bowl in 2012. And this was coming from Michael Irvin last night. And man, oh man, Steve Smith took offense to what Michael Irvin was saying, that Antwan Bolden was the last real wide receiver that Joe Flacco has had on the team, and he did not appreciate it. And we all know when it came to talking shit, when it came to trash talking, nobody, and I mean nobody. You think Jalen Ramsey is a good trash talker? He is nothing compared to what Steve Smith was throughout his entire career. You want to talk about a guy that played every damn down with a chip on his shoulder and a guy that was definitely always trying to prove something. Steve Smith was that. So he hasn't lost it. He kind of, and I'm going to show you the video here in a second, but things flipped on this when they were at the set, they were on the field, at the set, and Michael Irvin came out with that whole, he hasn't had a quarterback, a wide receiver, Joe Flacco, since Antwan Bolden in 2012, and this is this is what it looked like and sounded like. No, you might not be able to hear this, so I apologize for the audio there if you weren't able to hear that. But let me tell you what he said. He basically told Michael Irvin that that I got a doctorate in route running. He called him a playa, and he said that you got an associate's degree from a community college, and that is what he told Michael Irvin. And it was Michael Irvin's face. Let me just show you what Michael Irvin's face looked like. That was Michael Irvin's face after Steve Smith did one of these, hey, player, okay, I got my doctorate in route running, and you ended up getting yours. You got an associate's degree from a community college. God damn, when I tell you, Steve Smith has not lost it at all. One of the funniest moments last night. And I can tell you right now, Michael Irvin was a pretty good shit talker in his day, but you do not want to go man-to-man against Steve Smith when it comes to talking shit. My goodness, it was hilarious. And by the way, just for the record, Steve Smith does lead Michael Irvin in career receptions, yards, and touchdowns, even though they both played in vastly different eras. Keep that in mind, though. Steve Smith, when it comes, the record books will show you, has got a whole lot different perspective and a whole lot different numbers than what Michael Irvin had, even though Michael's got he's got the rings. And Steve Smith, listen, Steve Smith got there. Don't forget, with the Carolina Panthers, but unfortunately wasn't able to take it home. And I want to welcome those of you who are joining us here. If you are just hopping in the car, top of the hour here, if you're just joining us, welcome in WTF Sports TV. My name is Joe Raineri. We're excited on Fridays. We love our football Fridays. So much going on here. We've got some college games we're going to lay out for you here. We've got, of course, a full slate of NFL games. We've got some value. And as a bonus, there are a couple of horse races over the weekend on Saturday, tomorrow, that a little birdie has passed along some information to me where there are a couple of horses that you may want to write this information down, because it might very well be worth your while to head over to Hialeah or head over to Gulfstream and go ahead and place a couple of shekels on these horses. And we'll talk about that coming up at the bottom of the hour. You don't want to miss that. And you don't want to miss an opportunity to head and see our good friends at Miami Acura. That is right, Miami Acura. They are asking, I am asking you to please take it for a test drive. The all-new 2019 RDX, I can assure you, you will never, ever give it back, okay? There's probably a good chance you're going to walk away in handcuffs because they're going to call the cops on you. Why? Because you took it for a test drive and you never brought it back, and you kidnapped the poor sales guy, and it's probably going to be a mess, but I am telling you, it is worth giving it a shot. And Miami Acura is the only place for you to go and take the all-new 2019 RDX for a test drive. 855-564-4669. That's how you reach them, right there on the screen. For the peeps in the 305 and the 954, head out to Palmetto Bay there. If you live in Kendall, you know where it is, 16601 South Dixie Highway in Palmetto Bay. But give yourself some time, especially over the weekend. If you are shopping for new cars, head over and see Deborah and the crew over at Acura, Miami Acura, that is, in Palmetto Bay. And tell them that Joe said, I've got to steal one of these all-new 2019 RDXs. And quite honestly, from the prices and the deals that they get right now, it is kind of like stealing it. The all-new 2019 RDX. Make sure you guys go and give it a test drive. Also want to thank our good friend Rick J. Rick J's handicappingpicks.com. He dropped by to start the show and laid out a couple of pitfalls and some things to be aware of if you are planning on getting into sports gambling now that it is going to be legal all over the country. It's not going to be one of those backroom situations where you've got to place the bets with the local butcher or which is, listen, that's still going to be, but, not everyone is very comfortable with heading to the local mechanic there and laying money down on the Jets to cover -3. And you're not going to have to worry, because now that sports betting is going to be legal in more than just Las Vegas. You're starting to see more and more U.S.-based companies come out, give you the opportunity to be able to lay that action. In fact, FanDuel has opened up a sports book now. It's on a beta version. They're actually offering a membership to people. So it's coming. It's going to be there. And if you've always wanted to get involved and even become a casual bettor, being somebody that, even if you just want the games to be a little bit more interesting, and I promise you they get more interesting the minute that you put money down on it, then this is definitely the show for you to be able to monitor and follow, because I'm going to be bringing guys like Rick J on and Jersey Kid Picks. I'm going to be bringing these Vegas insiders, these professional sports handicappers, to kind of help you along and try to avoid some of the mistakes that they have made, some of the mistakes that they have seen people make over the years. This is going to be very informative. It's meant to be informative, a little bit entertaining, because these guys they are all different. When I tell you, there are some guys that, it's like Joey Bag of Donuts, and then there are some other guys like Rick J we just talked to, who are former attorneys, former accountants, former poker players. That these guys, they all, if you listen to them, they all kind of tell you the same thing about the pitfalls and what to avoid as a sports bettor. And if you didn't get a chance to see that interview, you'll be able to see it, of course, right here on WTF Sports TV. Once we are done, it'll be available for you to rewatch, which is one of the beautiful things about streaming to you guys live each and every weekday, 4 p.m. It's really so cool, because if you miss it, if you missed anything, something you wanted to hear, like, hey, who's Joe like in this game? Or who does Jersey Kid Picks like in this one? And what's the horse of the weekend? And all of that good stuff. It's just a couple of clicks away, and you can hear it and watch it all over again, which is why we love this. It's on demand. You guys can watch when you want to watch, and you can listen when you want to listen. You don't have to go out of your way and download all sorts of crazy apps or do all of these things with, like podcasting and does Apple Podcast, how does it work? I have no idea what's going on. Who the hell am I? I don't even know how to download a podcast. You don't have to worry about any of that. Why? Because if you've ever worked YouTube, if you have a Facebook page, and if you have a Twitter account, then that is all you need to be able to catch us each and every day at WTF Sports TV, and of course at Joe Raineri Show. That's how you reach us. So we couldn't be more excited. This is the future of what providing content to people is all about. I love my radio fam. I love my radio peeps. But this here is what it is. This is the future of people who are going to be, radio listeners, TV watchers. When you look to consume on your own time, and you look to you want what you want when you want it. We all do. And this is the way to be able to provide that, to be able to give you the information, provide the entertainment, provide the good times, provide the opinions, and be interactive, because the number up here you guys can see, that's the Miami Acura hotline, 855-WTF-2255. That's how you can reach us here on the show, all the shows, in fact, that are going to be coming your way here on WTF Sports TV, 855-WTF-2255. So write that number down. Keep it in mind. You can always chime in. We've got the phone system set up. We've got screener. We got all sorts of things here from a technology standpoint to be able to provide to you, because here you are, here I am, here we are. We're able to do this here on a consistent basis, and we don't really need anybody else or anything else. We can do this all day long, which is exactly what we plan on doing. And coming up, we are going to lay out some of the value picks for you to keep in mind as you get ready to watch college football tomorrow and the NFL. I've got 3 games coming up here on Saturday. I got 3 college games that I want you to circle because these are games that are definitely going to win. And I hate to say definitely. I sound like one of those guys that's offering 80% winners. But no, that's not the case. I got 3 games that I love tomorrow. We'll lay those out for you coming up here in just a minute. This will give you time to be able to, go ahead, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you share this, tell your friends, write the number down. And in just about 3.5 minutes, we will come back, give you those college games, plus the games in the NFL that you absolutely have to know the value on. We'll do that coming up next. Welcome in. Happy Football Friday to you. The name is Joe Raineri, and this is WTF Sports TV. Welcome, and I hope your week has gone swimmingly. I hope you are excited as I am and waiting for more college football. Week 3 tomorrow, and of course the NFL Week 2 got off to just a bang yesterday, didn't it, with the Ravens and the Bengals? But we are getting ready, a full slate of games, and we got a lot of value. We got a lot of games to cover here. We're going to do that. So let's get the administrative stuff out of the way right now. I want to thank our good friends over at Miami Acura. If you haven't done so, head over to Miami Acura. Would you take the test drive, the all-new 2019 RDX? Take the test drive. I like that. I got to get that on a shirt. Yeah, I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. Prices and deals have never been this low on the all-new 2019 RDX. If you are planning on going car shopping this weekend, make sure you head over to our friends at Miami Acura, 16601 South Dixie Highway, Palmetto Bay. If you're in Kendall, you know exactly where that is, or in the 954. Simply call them, 855-564-4669. Tell them I'm coming by. I want to take this all-new 2019 RDX for a spin, and I won't take no for an answer. Tell them that Joe sent you. We are excited. Also, that Miami, let me go this way. There you go. That Miami Acura hotline, 855 WTF 2255. That is how you reach us here on the show. Your thoughts. If you have a question about a game, if you have a comment about the upcoming games this weekend, call us. Love to hear what you've got to say. 855 WTF 2255. And before we get to the college games, and I do have 3 that I want to let you know about. Also want to let you know that coming up here right around 6:15 on WTF Sports TV, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe, like, follow us. We will have the boys live from the Palm Beach Kennel Club. If greyhound racing and thoroughbred racing are your thing, you are definitely going to want to catch this show. They got a lot to say about this weekend's card and what's coming up at the Palm Beach Kennel Club, not to mention the fact that I may have 2 horses tomorrow that are racing that you may just want to jot there, get a little, you may want to write their names down, because if you're planning on heading to Gulfstream or Hialeah Park anyway, yeah, you may want to know the names of these horses. I'll do that for you coming up right around the bottom of the hour. But I do want to say the Pittsburgh Steelers are getting a whole lot of flack for not paying Le'Veon Bell, and a very surprise. And I was surprised to see this, but of all the Steeler faithful, Terry Bradshaw is pissed off and thinks that the Steelers have completely blown it. And it's amazing to me how Le'Veon Bell has gotten basically thrown to the wolves. He's been thrown under the bus by his own teammates. And I've never, at least I can't recall a situation where I can remember a guy holding out for a contract that the players held it against him for going out and trying to get himself more money and a better deal. Now, the players, don't forget, are the ones who consistently bitch and moan about how the owners have all the leverage, the owners have all the power, and they're always talking about trying to get, every time an NBA player signs for $600 million for a year, these NFL players are coming out bitching and moaning and going, we've got to do a better job. We've got to get what the NBA players get, and so on and so forth. So I was a little shocked to see that guys in his own locker room would be throwing him under the bus like they've done, especially to start the season. I remember when Darrelle Revis did it with the Jets a couple of years back, 5, 6, 7 years ago it was, when good old Sexy Rexy was the head coach there, and the Jets were part of Hard Knocks, and he was holding out, and everyone wanted him because they knew they needed him if they were going to have a shot at winning any games. They didn't anyway, but they knew they needed Darrelle Revis. But I don't ever recall watching that and watching his teammates completely rip Darrelle Revis for sticking it to the owners and holding out and making sure that he got paid. I don't remember that kind of animosity. I know I was watching a special on the Dallas Cowboys, and they were talking about how Emmitt Smith. Remember when Emmitt Smith held out when they were going, I think, what was it, the second year that they were going for to repeat? I think it was year 2. They had just won one. They were about going for the second, and Emmitt held out. And when Emmitt held out, they lost the first 2 games. And then all of a sudden, Jerry picked up the phone and realized we are not going to be able to win a championship again if Emmitt Smith is not on this team and if he is not here. Emmitt held out, ended up getting paid, came back, and then, of course, the rest is history. They went on to win the Super Bowl. And I also remember one of the stories about Charles Haley, who was on that team. It was just just a few fries short of a Happy Meal there, old Charles Haley. But I remember that there was a situation that the players talked about where I guess after the second loss, Jerry at home, I guess Jerry had come into the locker room after the game, and Charles Haley picked up his helmet and whipped it at that little Rugrat's head there, that being Jerry Jones of all things, and whipped it at his head. And all because of, where the hell is Emmitt Smith? Go pay Emmitt Smith. Get us our running back so we can go ahead and win another Super Bowl. And it was shortly after that, by the way, that they did go out and sign Emmitt, and they went on to win the Super Bowl. But that's not what's happening here in Pittsburgh. And there are, even though the players have made it known that, all right, James Conner's our guy. He racked up 135 yards last week against Cleveland. And, we didn't change the game plan at all. So we should be okay. Who needs Le'Veon Bell? Well, not everybody is on that page. And that includes the great Terry Bradshaw, who told Bleacher Report that, the problem is he's become a distraction. And the only way that you are going to win a Super Bowl is if you pay him. And this is a Super Bowl team with Le'Veon Bell, Bradshaw said. Without him, it isn't. And should the Steelers lose to Kansas City this weekend, Terry feels that the Steelers are going to need to take a harder look at the reality of how much Le'Veon Bell means to the organization. He says, I would have signed him. I would have given him his money, no problem. And can I tell you something? I kind of agree 100% with Terry Bradshaw. And I think what's happening here is this organization is going to have to come to the realization, like Jerry Jones and the Cowboys had to when they didn't sign Emmitt Smith, and they lost the first 2 games of the season. I don't know if Ben Roethlisberger is going to whip a helmet at the owner's head there anytime soon, but I think a loss this weekend at home against the Kansas City Chiefs, that might be, and I think Terry's right, that might be an eye-opening experience for them going, we need Le'Veon Bell. Because, listen, James Conner was great, but he needed 31 touches to be able to get those 135 yards. And if I'm Le'Veon Bell, I don't want to risk, 26 years old. He's in a position that he doesn't have a long time to be able to compete at a very high level, although don't tell Adrian Peterson that. Le'Veon Bell is one of the most used running backs in the league. They center everything around him in Pittsburgh, and he's right to be worried about coming in there. I'm not playing for anything more guaranteed than what the $14 or $14.5 million in the franchise tag is going to give me. Why in the hell am I going to go out there, risk possibly getting hurt, and then not be able to get the payday? He wants to get paid, and I am all for the players getting paid. I'd go and get paid. I will never root for billionaire owners to get over on the working guy. And that's what Le'Veon Bell is. He is the workhorse of this team. They are not the same team without him. I don't care what you lull yourself into thinking, Steeler fans, that somehow James Conner, because he lost a couple of pounds, is all of a sudden the next Le'Veon Bell, and you guys are just as good with James. That is not the case. It's not even remotely close to being the case. I'm all for the players getting their damn money from these owners, but big time. And they are a Super Bowl caliber team with Le'Veon Bell. And I do think it's going to take an 0-2, maybe 1-3 start before this organization wakes up and realizes, let's get the guy his money. Because if you don't pay him, you bet your ass somebody else is going to give him the money. New York Jets, who have more cap space than anybody else next year. I'm sorry. A little something in my throat there. But yes, somebody else is going to pay him. So I think it's unfortunate that Le'Veon Bell is in this situation where he's getting blowback from his teammates, who, I get it, they want to win and they know they're a better team. The simple reaction from these teammates towards Le'Veon Bell and these guys throwing him under the bus tells you how much Le'Veon Bell means to that team and how much these guys know he means to that team, because they wouldn't say two words about him one way or the other if he was so easily replaceable with somebody like James Conner. And I think you're getting that kind of blowback because everybody realizes you can't do it without him. So pay the damn man, okay? Steeler fans, you should be screaming right now at the Rooney family going, open up the damn checkbook, you cheap sons of bitches, and pay this guy. 26 years old. Pay him, okay? Because once Ben Roethlisberger retires in the next year or two, all right, and Mason Rudolph, the kid out of Oklahoma State, love the kid, all right? Okies, go Cowboys. But the reality is he's not a Ben Roethlisberger, and you're going to need more on that team. You're going to need somebody to be able to carry that team, and that somebody is going to be Le'Veon Bell. So open up the checkbook, take your pen, and write the goddamn check and get Le'Veon Bell back on the field. And what do we got? Stymie joining us here via YouTube on the WTF page there. And Stymie says, Bradshaw bashed the organization over Big Ben's womanizing rape allegations, so I'm not surprised he's standing by Le'Veon Bell getting paid. He is right in both instances. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And the organization towed the line when it came to Ben Roethlisberger. And they're towing the line again as an organization with Le'Veon Bell, trying to let everybody know that, we don't want to pay a running back that much money. And, I get it. We don't want to have to do that. We don't want to handcuff our organization. So yada, yada, yada. Listen, I get it. I absolutely get it. But the reality is you're not winning squat without Le'Veon Bell on the sidelines on that team. So I just wanted to get that out of there because we've heard so much about people being all sorts of pissed off that and there he is, Stymie. Appreciate that on YouTube at WTF Sports, at Joe Raineri Show. Want to thank you guys there. We've heard so much about the people bashing Le'Veon Bell for not being on the team, and I think it's nice that somebody came out in support of the player. All right, let's not support the billionaire owners who don't give a crap about the players one way or the other, and that's just a sad fact of the reality of the NFL, because if they did, they would make sure that, lifetime health care would be taken care of for anybody and everybody that has ever stepped on an NFL football field, and, their brains going to mush later on in life. It would be nice knowing that everyone is taken care of, and the owners have more money to be able to do that, but unfortunately, they haven't done that. And so the owners are out for the owners. I'm all for the players getting theirs. All right, and we'll leave it at that. 855-WTF-2255. Grady Ross joining the house. What's up, Grady Ross? Look at that, Grady. What is going on? Let's see what we got, Grady Ross here. Where is he? There is he on. There he is. Thank you. Good to see you too, Grady. I'm sure you're going to be asking me about your FSU, right? The Seminoles. You're going to want to know what's going on with them. We are definitely going to get you caught up with that game tomorrow. On the road, Syracuse. I got some numbers for you, Grady, about FSU that you are going to want to know all about. Welcome in, Jeremy Dorsett. Good afternoon, Joe. Aaron Rodgers and Leonard Fournette's status for Sundays are questionable. It's a good thing I picked up a TJ Yeldon. Yeah, it absolutely is a good thing that you picked up TJ Yeldon, because I can tell you right now, the New England Patriots coming to Jacksonville to take on that team. This is another one of those situations where, and I'm going to give you the numbers, when it comes to trends and Tom Brady on the road in the situation he's in with no Leonard Fournette, yeah, that's not a good thing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Is that Stevie Johnson, by the way? Stevie Johnson, welcome in via Facebook. Jacked up Grady, man, still looking like he can he can palm a Buick. Yeah, some things don't change. That man wakes up, Grady Ross, at Planet Fitness, or actually I think he belongs to 3 gyms. I think he goes to LA Fitness, Planet Fitness, Fitnesses Are Us, and, I'll bench press your car. The man lives at the gym, which is why he looks like that, Stevie Johnson. But it's good to see you. It's always a pleasure. Thank you guys for supporting us over here. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with us. Now, let's get into some of these games for over the weekend. Let's start tomorrow. Let's start with college, okay? And what I've done here is I've tried to put together some trends and stats for some of these marquee games, some things that you should take into consideration when handicapping and looking at the football games coming up tomorrow. For instance, I will tell you this. We know Ohio State taking on TCU tomorrow, right? So we know what's going to happen there. A lot of the Ohio State fans have already declared this a blowout. Ohio State is a 12.5-point favorite. And what you need to know is that in the last 15 games where a Texas-based team hosted a non-Texas opponent at AT&T Stadium, which is where this game is going to be played, yeah, the out-of-staters are 11-4. That's 73% against the spread. So that certainly favors Ohio State, who is on the road in Arlington taking on TCU. But I will throw this out for you as well. Since Gary Patterson took over TCU in 2000, the Horned Frogs are 18-6 against the spread when they are a touchdown underdog. They're 9-1 in their last 10. So a touchdown or more as an underdog, TCU, 9-1 the last 10 covering the spread. So keep that in mind as you begin to handicap as I'm bleeding all over the place here. I apologize for that. They are 9-1 against the spread when they are a touchdown or more underdog. That is the situation we've got right now for them. Let's talk about USC at Texas. USC at Texas happening this weekend. Texas and Tom Herman. People don't know what to do with Tom Herman. They don't know whether or not he is the answer and the savior that everyone thought he was going to be. Texas has way too much talent to be that mediocre. And then, of course, Clay Helton. A lot of people questioning whether or not he is really the answer for USC. Was he just simply a Band-Aid, or is this guy going to be capable of bringing this team to the promised land? So far, the jury is out on both of them. But keep this in mind here. USC at Texas. Texas, 3.5, minus 3.5 underdog. The Trojans under Clay Helton. They are 1-9 against the spread as an underdog. There's a reason why people are questioning whether or not Clay Helton is the answer at USC. That answer tells you right there. 1-9 against the spread as an underdog, and they are a 3.5-point underdog taking on Texas and not Arlington. What is the capital? They are. Where is UT? UT is in. Oh man, help me out here online here, guys. University of Texas is not Arlington. It's just an absolutely beautiful city, and I can't know why I can't figure it out. But you guys hit me up with that. Would you let me know? Let's go to LSU at Auburn. LSU at Auburn. We've got Auburn being a 9.5-point favorite, so at home. And what we need to know about this game is SEC home favorites, like Auburn is right now, 63-38-2 against the spread. That is a 62% clip against the spread since 2005. It is by far the best mark of any conference. So when you get an SEC home favorite, they are 63% of the time they are covering. So 9.5 may seem like a lot. I don't know if anybody's been watching LSU besides being good enough to beat Miami opening week, and then they had Southwest Louisiana last week. It was like a high school game. Keep in mind, Auburn, 9.5. Auburn, to me, is one of the most underrated teams. You hear so much about it. Alabama this year. Keep in mind that Auburn, they are no joke this year. Absolutely no joke. Do want to let you know, too, 855 WTF 2255. That is the number here. Gets you right in. Want to know your thoughts about the games coming up this weekend. That is 855 WTF 2255. That's the Miami Acura hotline. Have we figured out what city University of Texas is in? Austin. Thank you very much. As we got the producers in the back doing their job finally. Austin, Texas. Absolutely gorgeous. It's got mountains and it's got beautiful people. Everything is better and bigger in Texas. I can assure you that. And that's an absolutely beautiful place, and they deserve a better college football team. Washington at Utah. This is also going to be one of my best college picks here, but something you should know there is that they're expecting winds 15 to 20 miles per hour are expected in Salt Lake City for this game. And when you have 20-mile-an-hour winds hit a stadium, the under cashes in 64% of the time. And the under-over for that game is 47. So keep that in mind. Washington at Utah, 20-mile-an-hour winds expected in this game. You are looking at cashing a ticket under 47, 64% of the time. So pretty cool stuff there. And then, of course, FSU at Syracuse. And this is for you, Grady Ross. All right? This is for you, my friend. FSU, 2.5-point favorite. Heading to Syracuse. Heading to the cold, or Canada, I think. Right? Syracuse is Canada? Somewhere near Canada? It's up there, right? Got nothing but snow. Nothing but freezing ass cold, the Carrier Dome there. But the Noles. And this is very, very, very disheartening, and every FSU fan will tell you this. The Florida State Noles have received, to this point, as of about an hour ago, fewer than 40% of the betting action. That's terrible. And it's only happened in 12 games since 2011 that they have received less than 50% of the bets, of the money coming in. They are 2-10 against the spread in this spot. They're only getting 39% of the bets right now, and the only times, it's only happened 12 times since 2011 that they have received fewer than 40% of the bets. And 2-10 against that spread in that situation. It does not look good for the Florida State Seminoles against the Syracuse Orangemen. And I will tell you this as well. That kickoff is going to be 12 o'clock. The overreaction, and this is important to know, the overreaction for the first 2 weeks of the season and Willie Taggart and FSU not being able to compete, and how, Francois is just not the quarterback that he was before he got hurt, and yada, yada, yada. There is still more talent on that sideline for Florida State than almost 95% of the teams in this country. And it's certainly a hell of a lot more talent on the FSU sideline than there is for the Syracuse Orangemen sideline. So I'll give you, they haven't looked good. Willie Taggart has looked like one of those deer caught in the headlight situations. We know that. Also, keep in mind, Florida State cannot lose this game. They cannot lose this game without having a unmitigated dumpster fire on their hands, and there will be a mutiny in Tallahassee if that happens. Now, the line has crept down low enough that I feel confident to be able to pick Florida State as a road favorite. It is at 2.5. I do believe it's still at 2.5, and I do think that Syracuse is going to play up-tempo all day long. They love to play fast. That's the way they do it there, but I do think they have the horses on Florida State to be able to compete and win this game. It is, and I hate to say week 3 of the I hate to say that we are in a must-win situation, college week 3, but you bet your ass the Florida State Seminoles are in a must-win situation this weekend against the Orangemen, and I would definitely lay the 2.5 points and take Florida State. And what is that, Grady? What does Grady Ross got to say here? Grady says, man, we've got the turnover bag, the secure the bag. Oh, God. What was that, man? Like, seriously, what was in that? Was it a bunch of quit playing apparel? That's what I'm wondering, man. Is that what's in that bag? Do we got a bunch of shirts and hats that say quit playing going on in there, Grady Ross? I'm asking for a friend because I'm still waiting on when I'm going to get my shirt and hats here over at WTF Sports TV. When are we going to get all the quit playing apparel? I'm just asking for a friend. And I'm taking Florida State. It's not because I like you there, Grady Ross. Game number 2 that I love this weekend in college, going to be Ohio at Virginia. Okay, Ohio at Virginia. Now, this isn't one of the more sexier matchups of the weekend. I get it, but I like this one. We talked about value earlier and how you create value when you look at these games, and that's where you want to spend your time at. The Bobcats were the preseason MAC favorites, and they are going against Virginia, which just gave up 237 yards rushing to Indiana last week. The Bobcats are a pretty solid team. Virginia is at home. They're a 3.5-point favorite, and I do think that Ohio, yeah, they're no joke in the MAC. I would take the 3.5 points all day. I'm sorry, Virginia. You looked good week 1. Last week, you just looked terrible against Indiana, and I don't think it's going to bode very well for you. I like Ohio here, laying the 3.5 points. And, you know, Bronco Mendenhall, love the guy, but he just doesn't have any talent on that in that program. I don't know if it's a recruiting issue or if people have just decided they don't want to go to Virginia anymore, but not a lot of talent there, and it's starting to show. I think they're a 4-win team at best this year. And the final game that I'm going to recommend for you college-wise, Washington laying 4.5 at Utah. A lot of people feel Utah is an underrated team this year. Not enough people taking Utah seriously. They have a very dynamic offense. This is a big Pac-12 matchup. I'm going to take the Huskies. I think they're too formidable on offense. Jake Browning, Myles Gaskin, Salvin Ahmed, Aaron Fuller. These guys can score a bunch of points in a hurry, and I absolutely think this is going to be one of those signature wins this year for Washington that really kind of puts them and this is the statement game for the Pac-12 and for Washington this year. And I know it didn't work out all that well for them in the opening game, but there is just simply too much talent. They've got weapons. They got discipline. Love the quarterback, Jake Browning, they have there. And I think they're going to get it, even though they're on the road and they're going to be road favorites. I've got no problem laying the 4.5 here against Utah, who I think is going to show everyone why they're just a little bit, to me, overrated, not underrated. They are definitely a little bit overrated. It's going to be a fun game, but I think in the end, you're going to watch Washington pull away and win by at least 14 points in that game. So that's what you got. Florida State laying 2.5 on the road. I got 2 road dogs here, by the way. All right, talk about a guy going out on the – actually, I'm sorry, I got 3 road dogs here. I'm taking Florida State on the road over Syracuse. I'm taking Ohio over Virginia on the road, and I'm taking Washington on the road over Utah. Now, that is value, people. That's what we're talking about here. Got a little meat on the bone this weekend is what we've got. So mark it down, and when you lose all your money this weekend, you can come back Monday and tell me how I don't know what I'm talking about, and I am completely full of shit. All right, are you guys ready for some NFL? You ready for some NFL picks? I've got 3 or 4 games here that are great value plays. I'm going to tell you what's happening with the trends in the NFL. A lot of money is coming in late. A lot of the sharp money, the guys who know what they're doing or think they know what they're doing, a lot of the professional money is starting to come in right now, and it's affecting some of the lines on some of the games for Sunday. So we're going to go ahead and do that and get you our picks. So this way you can sharpen your number 2 pencil, get it down, get ready, and as long as you've got the pencil, go ahead and write down this number. It is to Miami Acura. Stop by, take a test drive, the all-new 2019 RDX. That's right, the all-new 2019 RDX. They are on South Dixie Highway. For those of you in the 305, you know where they are. Just keep heading, man. Just keep going out. Take 112. Keep going all the way down as if you're going to Kendall. Then swing by right over there in Palmetto Bay. You can't go wrong on South Dixie Highway. Stop by, see Deborah, see Frank, see the family at Miami Acura. Take it for a test drive. The deals are unbelievable right now. As a matter of fact, you can call them if you're in the 954 or the 561 and you're going, you know what, I'm looking for a car. Joe says you're going to hook me up. They will hook you up. Call them, set up an appointment. Go take the all-new 2019 RDX for a test drive. 855-564-4669. That is 855-564-4669. 6-9, and make sure that you tell them Joe said to call you. All right, so we're going to take a quick pause for the cause here. We'll be back in just about 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and when we do, we'll go ahead and give you the games that I love in the NFL this weekend. We'll kind of break it down, tell you what's happening in Vegas, where the lines are going, and we'll do the quick NFL rundown. We'll do that in 2.5 minutes. This gives you time to like the page, subscribe to the page, retweet this. You can go ahead and tell your friends, tell your family about it, send it to the coworkers. At WTF Sports TV, it is the place to go for some amazing sports content on demand. We do nothing but create sports content all week long, so it's here when you want it, which is the beauty about this. You don't have to worry about oversleeping or getting stuck and missing any of this. You can always catch the replays here, which is the beauty about having a content produced via streaming live on platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope. We are here for you when you want it and how you want it. And we love you guys. We thank you so very much for supporting us and making us a part of your day here each and every day. We just ask that you like the page, subscribe to the page, and tell your friends and kind of retweet it and promote it. And we would love you forever for it. All right. Ooh, Stymie's got a question about Ball State. And I love anytime somebody brings up Ball State. Okay. You're going to ask me why, and I'm going to have to tell you that. And I will do that coming up in just 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Stymie, you hold on to that thought, brother man. We'll be right back. Welcome back in. Happy Friday to you. Thank you so very much for hanging around, sticking around, hanging around, doing all that kind of good stuff with us. We certainly do appreciate it. We invite you to use the number. Oh, damn it, it's the wrong way. Over here. Yes. Use the number. Reach us. Always want to hear your thoughts about the games happening this weekend. It's the Miami Acura Hotline. Simple. 855 WTF 2255. That is how you reach us. 855 WTF 2255. Hit us up. I want to know what you like this weekend. I know who Stymie likes this weekend here. Stymie's busting out talking about Ball State's taking on Indiana. He thinks they're going to go on the road. Forget the 14 points. Just go ahead and lay it. Ball State is going to be taking up Indiana, I believe, on the road in Indiana. Now, Ball State did play a tremendous game against Notre Dame, did give them a fight last week, so I am with you there. I actually think that Ball State, there is some value happening in that game also. And I do want to remind you, coming up here, we do have live from the Palm Beach Kennel Club. We've got the boys from the back stretch. They're going to be broadcasting to you live here on WTF Sports TV. So make sure, if you haven't done so, hit that damn bell in the upper corner. Get notified every time a show goes live here on our channel. You will get notified, and of course, you can always participate at 855 WTF 2255 if you like greyhound racing, if you like horse racing. And keep in mind, I'm going to give you and lay out a couple of horses tomorrow that I'm being told, you know, a little birdie coming over here, giving me some information that I'm going to pass along to you. So in case you're going to be heading over to Hialeah or Gulfstream Park and you want to lay some action, Gonna tell you exactly what you got to do and how you do it. That is coming up. But let's talk NFL here because we've got some interesting lines. Number one, hold on. I got to get my papers here. Hold on. See, this is another thing I love about this. The fact that we can stream live here, if I have to, like I said, bend over and maybe like scratch my ass or something, I don't have to worry about there being dead air or anything because you guys can see me and I can tell you, hold on, I'm gonna go scratch my ass for a minute, so I'll be right back. So don't go anywhere, okay? I'm just gonna bend down here. I'll be back in 2 seconds, and then we'll continue this. It's very interactive. I mean, the way it kind of brings you right into, you know, the studio here where you guys can hang out with me, I can hang out with you, and we can totally be ourselves, and I don't have to worry about being fined from the FCC or anybody else. It's a very hands-on approach. We can do this all day long. So hold on for a minute. Ha-ha! And we're back. Look at that, the way we did that. And if you're just joining us, by the way, once again, our plays for the day for tomorrow, we've got three. We got three road favorites we like. Florida State at Virginia, Ohio at Virginia, and we've got Washington on the road at Utah. We love those three road favorites. And it doesn't look good. Not a lot of money coming in on Florida State still. They're hovering around 39% of the bets. And I'm hoping they get over that 40% threshold because when they go in as a favorite and less than 40% of the money is being bet against them, they almost never cover. So I'm hoping that this will get up. And I do think a lot of the sharp money is going to come in late for Ohio State. I do for Florida State, rather. And I think they're going to go ahead and push that up and maybe even push the number back up. So if you can get it at 2.5, then absolutely do it. Get it right now. Take Florida State. They are not going to lose this game to Syracuse. You will have a mutiny on your hands in Tallahassee if that is the case, and I don't think that's going to be the case. All right, now speaking of people overreacting and the amount of money coming in, let's start first and foremost, I think, is what's going to be the game of the weekend, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers, okay? There is so much money coming in on the Kansas City Chiefs to the point where there might actually be a record set this weekend on the amount of money being laid down on one team over the other. The market is all over the Kansas City Chiefs. We're talking like flies on shit here, people, okay? We're talking public money coming in, hand over fist, laying it down. They want the Kansas City Chiefs. And listen, who can blame them? Recency bias. You watched what Kansas City did to San Diego. They've got weapons upon weapons. They got Patrick Mahomes. We've got still no Le'Veon Bell. The defense didn't look all that great for the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Cleveland Browns. They finished with a tie. You've got Tyreek Hill. You've got all of these things going. It makes sense. I know why the public is looking at this game and going, absolutely. But we talked about earlier, right, being a contrarian. We talked about, and you heard it from Rick J, Vegas insider from Rick J's handicappingpicks.com. We told you the way to make money when you bet on sports is to be a contrarian, is to look for those opportunities where everybody is going left, or is that right? I'm not sure. And that's when you go right. If everyone goes right, you go left. And I'm telling you right now, we are looking at a situation here that 81% of the bets, as of about an hour ago, are on the Chiefs. They are getting a level of support that is unheard of for an underdog. Keep in mind, Kansas City is on the road heading to Pittsburgh. That is ridiculous. The current record, so you know, for a dog is 80%. 80% of the money going on a dog. That's the record here. And I think the Chiefs, the way it keeps going, the Chiefs are probably going to end up breaking that record. I think what's more important here is that the line will probably end up, it'll probably either go to +3, because I do think the Sharps are waiting to pounce on this game, and I do think a lot of money is going to come in on Pittsburgh late in this game. So it could possibly reach +3 if they keep getting the kind of support, but I do think it's going to be one of those opportunities where everybody's going left, guys. The play here is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, now I know what you're saying. Ben Roethlisberger hasn't practiced this week. He's hurt. He's got a shoulder issue. They still don't have Le'Veon Bell. They didn't look all that impressive against Cleveland. I get it. But I'm telling you right now, the way to look at this is everyone is going left. We need to go right. Let me give you the trends in this game that you need to know. The Chiefs-Steelers, the over-under opened up at 50.5. It has since been bet up to 53.5. And when the total increases from the opening to closing lines with Roethlisberger at quarterback, the under has been very profitable in those situations. In fact, Roethlisberger, 49-37-1 against the spread when he's in these types of situations. So Big Ben is a profitable quarterback when a total increases from the opening to closing. Opened up at 50.5. We're looking at 53.5, 54 in some of the books. So that is definitely a stat that you may want to look at as I'm getting eaten alive here by something. Also, do the Steelers really need Le'Veon Bell? Well, James Conner ran 31 times, 135 yards, 2 touchdowns. Maybe more importantly to me is that he caught 5 balls for 57 yards. So when Bell has missed games, including the playoffs, the Steelers are 12-8-1 straight up, and they're 8-11-2 against the spread. Maybe even more importantly is James Conner from a daily fantasy standpoint is pretty damn valuable right now. He is still affordable across FanDuel and DraftKings. He saw, 97% of the Steelers rushers in Week 1. He's going to take on a Chiefs defense that ranked 32nd last season in that statistical category. I bet you he's going to be close to 99, if not 100% ownership this week, but he's affordable still in FanDuel and DraftKings, so I would pounce on him. Even if the Steelers fall behind, Connor can still do damage by catching the ball, hence with those 5 receptions for 57 yards last week. The Chiefs were torched last week by Melvin Gordon. As good as they were, let's not make it seem like a bed of roses here, because Melvin Gordon had 9 for 102, and he had 13 targets as well. So Austin Eckler also had a good day against the Chiefs, 5 of 87, and he had 5 targets there in the pass game. So just keep that in mind before you go crazy. I do like the over here. I do like the over 53 and a half. I think that's good to go. I think we're going to see a whole lot of offense in this game, and I do think that Ben Roethlisberger will show up. I do think that laying the number at 4.5 is not an issue whatsoever here. I think bettors are getting a little carried away with the love for Kansas City based upon what they witnessed in Week 1. Absolutely don't do it. Do not get sucked into that. The Kansas City Chiefs, they looked great, but on the road, no. I think the Steelers, this is one of those games where the Steelers always end up showing up and taking care of business against the better competition. The problem the Steelers have had over the years is that the Steelers lose to teams like the Cleveland Browns. They lose to the teams they're supposed to beat, and they beat the teams they're supposed to lose to. And that's kind of been the MO for the Pittsburgh Steelers with Ben Roethlisberger over the last 5 or 6 years. So keep that in mind. I think another one of the one of the other overreactions is this Carolina Panther at Atlanta Falcons game. You're looking at the spread right now at 5.5, and it's interesting because the money has come in split 50%. You've got 50% right now going on Atlanta, but you are getting a much more substantial amount of money, actual dollars, being placed on the Falcons. So even though the amount of bets are 50-50, 75% of the money, is coming in on the Atlanta Falcons. And some of the trends you need to know in this game is that after they lost in Week 1, that being the Falcons, they are home for this weekend, so they've got a little extended rest going on. And I don't know what it is with home field advantage of them, but playoff teams from the previous season have gone 43-28-3 against the spread, 61% since 2003 in Week 2 home openers. And that is exactly the situation that the Atlanta Falcons are in right now. Keep that in mind. Also, Cam Newton, pretty damn good as an underdog in his career, 29-19 against the spread. That makes him the third most profitable quarterback as an underdog since he was drafted in 2011. Furthermore, Cam, 8-6 straight up as an underdog since 2015. So to me, there's a lot of value with the Atlanta Falcons at home. They got a lot more going for them. I think they got a lot more weapons. The Carolina Panthers' offensive line is a hot mess right now. They've lost 2 of their starting linemen. Their defense is also hurt, even though Carolina looked like world beaters against the Dallas Cowboys last week. Thomas Davis is suspended, and Luke Kuechly is all banged up for the Carolina Panthers. I don't trust their secondary. Greg Olsen is out this week, which is unfortunate because the one weak spot the Atlanta Falcons have is at linebacker, and they don't have Greg Olsen in the lineup this week to be able to take advantage of that. And I mentioned Matt Khalil on injured reserve. They are a mess right now in the offensive line for the Panthers, and poor Cam, there's only so much he can do. And I do think that with that secondary having to cover Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, Calvin Ridley, and a rookie, Dante Jackson, they've got 2 corners, Captain Munnerlyn and James Bradbury, who aren't great, and that's who you are going to ask to be able to cover these guys at home. Lay the damn points. I would take the Falcons at 5.5. Even if it goes up to 6, I still would not have a problem with laying the money there on the Atlanta Falcons. The next game, the Cleveland Browns at the New Orleans Saints, right? The Cleveland Browns, New Orleans Saints. The Saints aren't as big a favorite as they were in Week 1 against Tampa, and we watched how that worked out for them, correct? It is at -9, -9.5 right now. 64% of the bets are coming in on New Orleans, and the Saints in the -8, -9 range might be actually the pretty good play. And listen, the Saints' ugly loss against the Bucs, and the Browns did tie the Steelers. So what happens with public bettors and public perception is that they tend to make decisions based upon what they just witnessed. And I think that's what you've got going on here. The Saints, the defense looked absolutely atrocious. One of the trends that you need to be aware of in this game is that if the Saints let you down as a 10-point favorite a week ago, history says they will make it up against the Browns this week. Since 2003, teams that lost their previous game as double-digit favorites have gone 35-22-2, 61% against the spread the following week. And if the team is favored, that record improves to 19-9, 68% against the spread. That's the situation the Saints are in right now. Can they lose consecutive home games? I mean, this is back-to-back home games. Can Sean Payton and Drew Brees actually go 0-2 at home in back-to-back situations? I don't know. Since Brees and Payton, their first season together in 2006, the Saints have lost at home and then played at home next week a total of 8 times. That's right, 8 damn times. And you know how many games they have won in that situation? 4. 4-4 straight up. So I think the Saints have recuperated. I do like the way they have gone about this. I do like them at home, and I definitely think that you're not going to get from the Browns what you got from the Bucs a week ago. So to me, the bet is definitely the Saints -8.5, -9. I definitely think that is the way to go there. And then, of course, you've got the Miami Dolphins at the New York Jets. This is a -3. Sam Darnold, if you haven't heard, is going to go ahead and win he's going to win the Super Bowl. I'm not sure if you guys heard that or not. Yes, he's going to win the Super Bowl. That is what everyone is saying. He threw an interception and then bounced back, and apparently Sam Darnold, the overreaction with him is out of control. Now, I'm a Jet fan. You know I'm a Jet fan. I'm a diehard Jet fan. But I'm telling you right now, New York was good enough to destroy Detroit. New York has already been told how good they are and how great Sam Darnold is. You've got a Miami team coming in that I believe in the last 9 games that Ryan Tannehill has started, the Miami Dolphins are 8-1. This Miami team cannot be taken lightly, and we're going to learn a lot about the New York Jets this weekend. Does Todd Bowles have the ability to keep them focused? Number one. Number two, where they're not going to be buying into the hype. That is something else that you've got to keep an eye on. To me, this game screams Miami Dolphins. -3, -2.5 is going to be bouncing back and forth, but teams that win by double digits in week 1, okay, after finishing below 500 straight up the season prior, yeah, they're 13-19 against the spread. And they're also 0-4 against the spread this year. So the trends do not favor the Jets. I'm a little worried in this situation because the Dolphins front is a hell of a lot more ferocious than what Detroit was bringing at them. And I do think that the Miami defense will be capable of throwing things at Sam Darnold that the Detroit Lions could not. And I think it might be a long day for Sam Darnold. So, and I can't even believe I'm saying this, as a Jet fan, go ahead, take the 3 points, and take the Miami Dolphins. I can't believe I said that. It's almost blasphemous, but it is true. I can't even believe I actually did that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bust out in hives here. Now, let me get you, before we turn it over to our friends over at the Backstretch, coming to you live from the Palm Beach Kennel Club, let me go ahead and tell you we've got a couple of things and races going on tomorrow. It's the first of the Road to the Derby point races. You're looking at 2-year-olds. It's kind of deep. They've got an awful lot of horses that are running in this week's. I believe it's going to be at Churchill Downs, which was the site of this year's Kentucky Derby. We've got a field of 12 going, and it's one of those situations, if you win, you are in. You're going to be in the BC Juvenile race. It's 2-year-olds are brutal, but here's what we know. Write this down. Look for number 4, Tight 10. Looks pretty solid, and if you're looking for a long shot in that race, put a few bucks on number 6, Tobacco Road, and Manny Wah under Tight 10 in the exactas. That's what you've got to be looking at. Once again, number 4, Tight 10, and number 6, Tobacco Road. And then you mix in Maniwa under tight 10 in the exactas, and you, my friends, are looking at cashing a ticket over at Gulfstream or Hialeah Park, wherever it is that you might be going there. So tomorrow's other interesting race, the winning in you're in is the BC Turf Mile at Woodbine. You've got a field of 9. Here are some of the horses that you want to keep in there on what we're going to be doing here. We are going to be looking at number 3, Delta Prince, number 7, Oscar Performance, and number 2, Stormy Antarctica. Those are the horses that you want to be looking at and mixing around and finagling to be able to get yourself and write yourself a ticket. So keep that in mind tomorrow. Number 4, Tight 10. Number 6, Tobacco Road. And, of course, number 3, Delta Prince. Number 7, Oscar Performance. Both of those races tomorrow. They are when you are in for the Breeders' Cup, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that. So good luck to you. Hope you go ahead and cash some tickets there. And we want to thank you very much for hanging out, spending some time with us here today. We'll be back on Monday, 4 p.m. You guys know how to get us, 4 p.m. right here on WTF Sports TV. We ask once again, please subscribe. Tell your friends, like the page, follow us, retweet us, do all of that happy crap there, please, and help us grow. We certainly appreciate the sports. You've got the backstretch coming your way live from the Palm Beach Kennel Club. That's coming up next. They'll cover greyhound racing as well as the horse races and certainly the races that we just talked about here tomorrow at the Kentucky Derby as well as Woodbine. Big shout out, Rick J. Want to thank him from Rick J's handicappingpicks.com for stopping by. If you missed the interview or any part of this show today, including the locks for tomorrow's college games and the NFL, it's pretty simple. Once we're done here, you'll be able to replay it back. You got it on YouTube, you got it on Facebook, you got it on Periscope and Twitter. We love you guys. Thank you so very much once again for making us a part of your day. Come back and join us on Monday, 4 p.m. We'll do it all over again. Have an amazing weekend. We love you guys. Thanks so very much.